What's up YouTube, I'm McCowcar131, and in this video we're going to be testing the 90 grain plus P Xtreme Defender from Underwood ammo against the 124 grain plus P Gold Dot from Speer in a simulated FBI test. So let's kind of break that down real quick. Right here I have the Xtreme Defender bullet from Underwood ammo, as I said 90 grain plus P, and I've already tested one of these. I think that was the plus P plus version, but I tested it right up here. In that video, I compared I think that was the plus P plus version of this Xtreme Defender bullet, but it was just nothing special, just a straight bare gel penetration video, and there wasn't really all that much difference. So that's why at the end of that video, I said something to the general effect of, I'm probably going to stick with normal jacketed hollow point Speer Gold Dot because I didn't see enough of a benefit with the Xtreme Defender to warrant going with that. You know, Gold Dot has that really long, solid track record of reliability. A lot of departments are using it. A lot of concealed carriers use it. It has a track record of just working. Whereas this Xtreme Defender is newer and it doesn't. Well, some of the comments pointed out the fact that just a straight normal penetration test, like I'm not sure if you can see on camera, but I have some gel blocks down here, is what I'm motioning towards. That isn't really going to show a lot of the benefits of the Xtreme Defender, because real quick, the Xtreme Defender here, as you can see, it works with these flutes that are cut into the bullet. That's how it causes all of its tissue damage. And that is as opposed to a normal jacketed hollow point like a Gold Dot, which relies upon expansion to cause damage. So some of the comments pointed out, and I knew this I suppose, but the real area where the Xtreme Defender is going to shine is against barriers. It's a fact that, while maybe not likely as just a normal civilian, you may well come across an instance where you might have to shoot at a target through, take your pick of whatever kind of barrier. So that's why a lot of people like to use this, because going through barriers has historically, and it does, it can mess up hollow points like this. It can deform them, it can clog up that hollow point so it doesn't expand. Whereas this, going through a barrier is not going to affect that. You know, there's nothing to clog up here. So going through barriers, this Xtreme Defender should perform exactly the same no matter what barrier it goes through. Okay, some of the comments pointed that out, and I said, all right, fair enough. So let's do a simulated FBI test on that and compare them. All the information I got from this is from the Hornady law enforcement website, which you should be seeing right here. But the FBI test consists of 6 stages. Each one has, well, except for the first one, was just bare gel. But other than that, stages 2 through 6 each have a different barrier that you're going to be shooting through to see how the bullet performs if you had to shoot a target through that barrier, or that medium. So as I said, stage 1, which I'm not sure again if you can see it, but right down here I have 2 FBI spec 10% blocks of clear ballistics gel. And I'm going to be doing stage 1, which as you should be seeing right now, is just nothing special, just straight bare penetration and ballistics gel. I've already tested that in the other video, as I mentioned, but let's do it again for sake of completion's sake. It's going to be coming out of my Glock 45, which just has a 19 length slide, so about a 4-inch barrel. And because I'm expecting this to be a pretty long video, I'm going to try and condense this down, and I'm just going to take both of these shots back to back. I might have to set the blocks back up, kind of put them back together if I need to, I will, but I'm not going to inspect each one individually. So first going in the mag is going to be Xtreme Defender. First one to be shot is the Gold Dot. Let's step off. The FBI test also specifies 10 yards, which is, not 10 yards, 10 feet, which is 3 yards. Whereas I normally shoot at 5 or 7 yards. I'll stick as close as I can to the FBI test, and we will do it at 10 feet. So I'm at roughly 3 yards here. As I said before, I have a 124 grain plus P Speer Gold Dot first. Second is going to be the 90 grain plus P Xtreme Defender. Chronograph setup, super slow-mo. See how it goes in bare gel. Didn't get a velocity. So I didn't get a velocity there. I did have to set the tape measure back up, but this is going to be the Xtreme Defender. Still did not get a velocity. Let's see what it looks like in the gel. All right, so as I said, my chronograph, for whatever reason, did not record velocities on either one of those. I'll mess with it in between this and the next stage and see if I can get it to work. But, as you should have seen in the super slow-mo, the wound tracks of the two don't look all that different. I'll get you a close-up here in a second. But it looks like the Speer Gold Dot up top, which penetrated about 14 inches, 14 and a quarter, roughly inches. It has, they look pretty similar as far as the bullet tracks go. As far as the necks, before they kind of started to expand or do damage to the tissue, look pretty similar. I'd say there's about a ½ inch neck before you start to see a quote-unquote permanent stretch cavity that shows in this gel. The Xtreme Defender down here on the bottom, again, I'll get you a better video here in a second, penetrated 19½ inches. Now, the number I use when I'm doing this test, which is also conveniently from the FBI, is I'm looking for between 12 and 18 inches of penetration in ballistics gel. That's a number they chose. Their scientists have a lot more money and experience than me, and they came to the decision that if a bullet penetrates between 12 and 18 inches in ballistics gel, it will typically penetrate deep enough in a human body to reliably hit vital organs. I'm going to get comments about that, because I always do. But it's not meant to be a one-to-one comparison, okay? The Xtreme Defender got like 19 inches in penetration of ballistics gel. That does not mean it's going to get 19 inches of penetration in a human body. They're not a one-to-one comparison. So, stage 2. This is where things start to get a bit more interesting. So what we have here, I don't know exactly, you should be seeing on the Hornady website, but we have 2 layers of a t-shirt material. We have a layer of fleece and a layer of denim. This is going to obviously go in front of the ballistics gel, and this is to simulate if you had to shoot someone that was wearing clothing, obviously. So once again, I'm going to be shooting the Gold Dot first, Xtreme Defender second. Mess with the chronograph a little bit. Let's see if I can get some FPS off of this. The clothing pack is set up. See how it goes. See how it goes. Had to reset the cloth material on there, but I did get a velocity off of that one. The 124 plus P Gold Dot got 1207 of a Glock 45. Let's try the Xtreme Defender. Not sure if my velocity was right on that one. According to my chronograph, I got 695. Pretty sure that wasn't right. All right, so stage 2, done. This is the heavy clothing test. Different cloth material here. So, as far as the wound tracks, right here you should be seeing, if not I'll get another video here. Right here is where the Xtreme Defender landed. Total penetration, 18 inches, so it only lost about 1 inch of penetration. The second Gold Dot is also going to be almost exactly the same. 17 3/4 inches it looks like, but you can see it right here in front. That's where the Gold Dot is. The Xtreme Defender is closer to over here. Comparing the wound tracks, once again, they look pretty similar. It looks like the Xtreme Defender might have gotten slightly more permanent stretch again. Quote-unquote permanent stretch. It's not going to be exactly the same in ballistics gel, even organic versus synthetic like this, but the permanent stretch that is showing looks like the Xtreme Defender got slightly more. Also, not really surprising that the Gold Dot penetrated a bit more. going through the cloth material, but it is also, in my opinion, not overly surprising that it still did very well. So let's move on to stage number 3. So now we come to stage 3. This is where things get really interesting, start to get interesting. Stage 3, as you should be seeing on the Hornady website, is all about this. 20 gauge, they call for hot rolled steel with a galvanized finish. This is just 20 gauge steel with a galvanized finish. I got this from metalsdepot.com, and it's not exact. Nothing about this is exact. If you guys haven't noticed, disclaimer, there's going to be discrepancies between this simulated FBI test and an actual official FBI test, but it is 20 gauge steel. It has a galvanized finish. I built this beautiful contraption here. It's very scientific, highly accurate, as you can tell, and it has these about 3 inches roughly apart, somewhere around there. Trying to get them to stand up. Damn it. Whatever. It's close enough. The FBI test calls for the blocks to be 18 inches behind the rearmost piece of steel, which this is. It also calls for, I believe, just 1 layer of the t-shirt material to be in front of the gel block, which I have here. Got a little piece of tape on there to hold it in place so it doesn't keep falling over. And let's step on back and see how these rounds handle some 20 gauge steel. All right, so stage number 3, 20 gauge steel. This is meant to simulate the weakest part of a car door. I did put a block of wood under the 2 gel blocks to try and get them on a more even height with my very scientific FBI test rig. So, see how they do. First up, once again, is the Speer Gold Dot. Velocity was 1192. Had to reset my piece of tape on the cloth material. See how the Xtreme Defender does. $14.99 for the velocity on that one, by the way, for the Xtreme Defender. Alrighty, so 20 gauge steel. For the record, I'm not pulling these out yet because if I start stabbing my knife in there and ripping these out, that's just gonna destroy these blocks even more, make it harder to see. So, I believe right here is the, yeah, that's what I thought. That's going to be the, right here, the Xtreme Defender. Total penetration, 18 3/4 inches. Not surprising. And I think I can just kind of eyeball here how much penetration the Gold Dot got. So, I mean, it's on the other side of all these old wound tracks, but, out there. Yep, I think got about 16 inches of penetration. So I wasn't planning on pulling these out yet, but you can see just what that 20 gauge steel did to this Gold Dot. Completely flattened it. The Xtreme Defender did exactly what it was supposed to. It doesn't rely on deformation or expansion to cause its tissue disruption. So it punched straight through this 20 gauge steel, and those flutes in the bullet did exactly the same thing, which is why all 3 of these Xtreme Defenders are all within 2 inches of each other. However, if we compare just in these first 3 tests, just the first half of this FBI test, the Gold Dot has seen discrepancies of 4.5 inches, 4 inches. So we've already seen a relatively quite a bit bigger discrepancy of penetration in just a couple barrier materials of the Gold Dot versus the Xtreme Defender. So let's move on to stage 4. Back half of this test here, finally, we are coming to stage 4. This one calls for two pieces of half-inch gypsum board. I don't know, this is a gypsum board. I don't know much about like different kinds of drywall. This is what Lowe's had. This is drywall. So once again, 18 inches behind the rear piece of barrier material. Got my tape measure set up. As you can see also, hopefully you can see, you'll see in the slow-mo here in a second, I reverse these blocks. So this back block here is the one that has all the old bullet tracks on it. Hopefully we'll get some slightly clearer views of the last three tests. Got the Gold Dot up first once again, then the Xtreme Defender, going through two pieces of half-inch drywall. $11.83 for the Gold Dot. Xtreme Defender. $13.90 for the Xtreme Defender. So that was the stage 4, two pieces of drywall. And unfortunately, I seem to have lost the Xtreme Defender. Punched out the side here. So you should be able to see a little scratch right here where that wound track comes off. And there's no point even testing it because it looks like it just skimmed out this block here at the very edge and it scraped that back one. So at least 16 inches of penetration. Given the other three tests, I'm betting it would have been around 18 or 19, but we did manage to hold on to, right here, the Gold Dot. We got 18.5 inches of penetration. So once again, it penetrated a bit farther than just the bare gel because it had to go through a barrier. Still very respectable penetration, still well within what I would consider acceptable. Stage 5, we are almost done, and I can kind of give you my final thoughts on this. I'm already forming them, but stage 5 has one piece of 3/4 inch wall board. Now, that's another area where this is going to not be exactly the same as the FBI test. The FBI test, I believe, calls for one piece of 3/4 inch double A fir plywood, I think, something like that. This is 3/4 inch plywood they had at Lowe's. I don't know like what rating it is. I'm not sure what it's made of. It's drywall. Gold Dot up first, going through a piece of drywall. $12.28 for the Gold Dot. Did not get a velocity on that Xtreme Defender. All right, piece of drywall, shot through twice. Let's see if I can find the bullets. The Xtreme Defender, now that I found it. Xtreme Defender ended up right down here at 17 inches of penetration, 17.25 maybe. The Gold Dot ended up right here with 18.5 inches of penetration. If I'm not mistaken, I'll get you a better video here in a second. It is butted up right against another, that's what I thought. It's literally butted up right against another Gold Dot in the gel. Xtreme Defender there in the back. Came to rest just barely into that second block. Those two wound tracks you're seeing right here, these are both from a Gold Dot. One's slightly behind the other, but then as you can see, like I said, they came to rest right up against each other. All right, y'all, we're at the end, stage 6. This is the one, I think, this is the one I'm most curious about. It's the one I'm most worried for the Gold Dot about. This is going to be simulating shooting through a car window. I bought this from onedayglass.com. This is laminated safety glass. The actual FBI test, according to the Hornady website, calls for ASI 1/4 inch laminated auto safety glass. This is 1/4 inch laminated safety glass. I'm not sure like what exact kind of discrepancies is there going to be. I'm not sure. They also list, this also isn't exactly the same angle it's meant to be at, but we'll see how it goes. I'm kind of worried how these bolts are going to do whenever they go through this, if they're going to like jump up and I'm going to miss the block. We'll have to find out. All right, this is the Gold Dot going through 1/4 inch laminated safety glass. Hopefully it'll go on the block. I think it went in the block. All right, I got a new piece of glass set up for the Xtreme Defender. See how it does. All right, let's see how these two bullets did. Going through laminated safety glass. And right here is this one. The Gold Dot right here on the bottom looks pretty mangled, but it got 13 1/4 inches of penetration, roughly. All right, I'll be honest, color me impressed. I had to look at this block for a minute and then go check the slow-mo to be sure. I got the Gold Dot penetrated 13 inches, maybe 13 1/4. That's pretty mangled up. I'll pull these all out and show you in a second. The Xtreme Defender is what surprised me. 12 inches of penetration on the Xtreme Defender. All right, so I've pulled all these bullets out here. As you'll remember, this one, the Gold Dot here, was the one from the steel test. That's the one that got real mushroomed out. That's the one that I just popped out in between the blocks. These 4 Gold Dots right here are going to be from stages 1, 2, 4, and 5, I believe. The bare gel, clothing, wallboard, and drywall. Nothing too messed up with any of these. And then this is the Gold Dot. And this is the Gold Dot that went through the auto glass. As I said, real mangled. Compare that against the Xtreme Defenders. As you can see, for the most part, all these look fine. Here is the Xtreme Defender that went through the auto glass. This is what surprised me. Even the Xtreme Defender got mangled up going through that auto glass. I did lose one of the Xtreme Defenders. Remember, it popped out of the side, I think on stage 4. I would guess this was going through the 20 gauge steel, would be my guess. But you can see very clearly how, for the most part, with one extreme exception, all of these retained their shape despite the barriers they went through. Even this one, I believe, again, this is the steel, it flattened it a little bit, but not too much. You know, compare the Xtreme Defender that went through steel to the Gold Dot that went through steel. All right, so final wrap-up time. I got some numbers here. I compiled some numbers of all 6 of the tests I have wrote down here, the penetration numbers. Let's go the spread. Okay, let's check out the spread of these. The Gold Dot has a spread of 13 inches, which was the stage 6, the auto glass, the shortest amount of penetration. On the extreme end, the Gold Dot got 18.5 inches. That's about 5.5 inches of spread, depending on what barrier it went through. The Xtreme Defender had about 12 inches on the low end, again, also from the safety glass. And on the top end, it had about 19 inches, okay? Now, on the surface, you might look at that and say, oof, that's a really big spread. You know, that's 7 inches. That's an even wider spread for the Xtreme Defender. However, there's one very clear outlier there, and that was obviously the safety glass. Now, if you take out the safety glass, let's check out the numbers there. We have between 17 and 19 inches, not counting the one that popped out, but I'm, again, willing to bet money that it would have stopped in that general area. But if you take out that one outlier, the Xtreme Defender was by far and away the most reliable. Despite any barrier it went through, for the most part, it still got within that very common 17 to 19 number. Now, the Gold Dot didn't surprise me, to be honest. The Gold Dot did pretty much what I expected. It was respectable, had a pretty wide spread depending on what barrier it went through. However, they were all, again, pretty close to that 12 to 18 inch number I'm looking for. The Underwood, the Xtreme Defender, this is the one that did shock me entirely because of this one. I did not expect this auto glass to, I mean, you should have already seen whenever I did the comparison of the bullets. I did not expect it to mangle and just flatten out this Xtreme Defender the way it did. Did not expect it at all. So that's the one thing that surprised me. However, even with that said, 12 inches to 19 inches on the extreme end and 13 to 18 and a half for the Gold Dot. So what has this test really told me? What is my final sort of conclusion about this test in my very unprofessional and not super experienced opinion? It has told me for the most part that the Xtreme Defender, in by far and away most cases, is going to be very reliable in how far it penetrates in a simulated human body, quote unquote, ballistics gel, soft tissue, despite any barrier it may go through. Whether that be clothing, no barrier at all, no barrier at all, clothing, wallboard, drywall, even the steel, it got pretty much generally in the same area. However, the Gold Dot did have a wider discrepancy depending on what barrier it went through. However, as you saw from the numbers, they all still got pretty much in that extreme sort of spread of 12 to 18 inches. So if I had to pick a winner from this unscientific, not to any sort of real specification, but in this one test, I would have to say the Underwood definitely won. It was the most reliable as far as how much it penetrated. It blew through pretty much all of the barriers, and it got in that same relatively small area for the most part. However, that being said, I'm pretty impressed by the Gold Dot. I expected to come out of this test to be completely transparent. Before I did this test, I 100% expected to say the Gold Dot was just obviously the loser. Like, it had way too much discrepancy and yada yada. But I gotta say, the Gold Dot surprised me with how well it performed. The Underwood 90 grain plus P Xtreme Defender is the winner. If you enjoyed the video, you found this informative, fun, entertaining, whatever, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I appreciate it. I'll have more content similar to this. If you enjoyed it, subscribe, give me a thumbs up. I'm the Car 131, signing off.